Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to another beautiful Monday. I know you hear me say that every Monday, but every Monday is beautiful. I mean, just looking out, the sun is shining. It is a beautiful, beautiful Monday. So, welcome. And I'm so glad that you're here today because we have a special program for you. We really do. But first, I want to thank our viewers and our replay viewers. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We do appreciate you. I know you guys are saying, why is Ruben's name up there? Anyway, but because he's coming, that's why. But I want to also thank our sponsors for today's show. Today, we have the Idea Club. The president is Dumas Martin Jr. If you are looking to have a nonprofit, a 501c3, if you're looking to have a corporation, a S Corp or C Corp, or if you're looking for anything in those intellectual property areas, you want to go to the Idea Club and contact Dumas because he's just the man that can help you with that. So go to ideaclub.com and you can talk to Dumas Martin. Next, one of our other sponsors is First Book Academy. If you've been wanting to write that book, just haven't been able to get it together to do it, you want to go to First Book Academy. Our youngest author is 9, our oldest author is 89. Ta-da! If you fall between the ages of 9 and 89, you qualify. So you can get the book done. And I can tell you, our author that's 89, she had been working on her book for 15 years. And she worked with us for 6 months, and her book is now published and it's on Amazon. It's doing so well, and we're so proud of her. So I can tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, you want to take the time. We have so much wisdom, but we don't take the time to share it with the next generation or the current generation. So you got to write it down and put it where somebody can go get that wisdom. And that is First Book Academy. Next, we also have the Henderson Real Estate Group. They're here. They're a sponsor for the show. We'd like to thank the Henderson Real Estate, the hendersonrealestate.info. You can go there. And also, if you're looking for real estate needs, as we will be talking to our guest today about the same thing. But it's always nice to have options. So they have been a sponsor, and they continue to be a sponsor for the show. We have Sutton Insurance, SCVS. They are also a sponsor for the show. And lastly, Front Page Publishing. Front Page Publishing. Let's say you've already written a book. The book is written, already done, but you just never published it. You want to contact Front Page Publishing to get the book published. And it's a publishing house. And I can tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, you'd be amazed how it's not as hard as you think it is when you have someone holding your hand through the process. It just makes a huge difference. So that's Front Page Publishing. For those of you that want to get on our email list, you go to marydwelch.com and you can join the email list. And the emails go out, some of you know, about 4 times a week. I'm just going to say that honestly. And as long as people know that, they seem to be okay with it. It's when they don't know it that they're not okay with it. But when you know you're going to get 4 times a week emails, you're okay with that. So now, before I go, almost forgot. Those of you that own a home, this is the book you want to get. Save Your Home from Probate. If you have a home and you don't have a trust, let me say that again. If you have a home, you don't have a trust. Maybe you have a will, but you don't have a trust. Save Your Home from Probate. In that book, and there's a California edition, you can protect your home from after your passing. You get to decide who gets the property without going to court. Let me tell you why that's important. If it goes to probate and it goes to court, the person you want to get the home may or may not get it. But if you feel like this one sheet of paper, you're going to file it with your deed. That is it. Can you believe that? Something could be that simple, but it really is. But all you have to do, and in the book is an example of the paperwork, everything. It takes you step by step what you need to do in order for that to happen. So you can go online, it's on Amazon, Save Your Home from Probate, and there's in California. California has its own book. What I really like about the book too, in the California edition, it is included example of a will, example of a medical directive, example of a power of attorney. All that's in the book. So you don't have to look for it or can't find it. It's there for you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, our guest today, I am honored to have Ruben Hernandez. He is the president and founder of EGA Homes, a full-service, certified, veteran-owned real estate company is based in Riverside, California. Ruben is also the co-founder of the Veterans Housing Alliance, a nonprofit organization where the mission is to increase the percentage of veteran home ownership as well as assist homeless veterans with transitional housing, which is really big. Think about it, because I know right now, as we know, they're working on having 0% veterans become homeless. During his senior year of high school, at the age of 17, Ruben enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps, following the family tradition of service in the military instilled by his grandfather, father, aunts, and uncles. Mr. Hernandez is a combat veteran in the U.S. Marine Corps and served during the Panama conflict and in Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm. He was awarded several medals and awards while on active duty, including a Navy Achievement Medal for saving a life while stationed in Okinawa, Japan. Ruben earned a master's degree in business administration, MBA from UC Riverside's A. Gary Hernandez School of Management, followed by a successful corporate career while working for General Electric and finally Merck Pharmaceuticals before deciding to put his corporate experience and contacts to use as an entrepreneur. In 2009, Ruben launched EGA Homes and has also served as managing partner of Coldwell Banker Blackstone as a franchise co-owner. I can tell you. I'm going to go on and finish Ruben's because I think it's just really a good, it tells you about who this man is. Today, Ruben employs approximately 85 agents. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. That's an army. 85 agents, staff, and trainees in the process of getting licensed via his real estate training and boots to suits program, quote unquote. His unwavering commitment to his core values is demonstrated through relentless preparation, his team first attitude, and an intense work ethic. Ruben focuses on positive personal relationships with his agents, ensuring success in and beyond their real estate career. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you and bring to the show Ruben Hernandez. You there, Ruben?
I'm here. Thank you, Mary. How are you doing? Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you too. After reading that bio,
yeah, it's been quite a journey, to be honest with you.
All right. Well, why don't you tell? Because I was just reading that, but there's so much more I know. We met a couple weeks ago at the Fair Housing event down in Riverside, and I remember I went up to you and I said, I don't even know who you are, and I know you. Remember, think about it. I just met you, and I knew you were a leader instantly.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Seriously, and I said that to you. I meant it. And so today, why don't you tell our audience, who are you and how did you get here?
Well, I'm a local guy to Riverside. It's been an amazing journey. You know, my mom raised me as a young man to be responsible. I played various sports, obviously, and while I was growing up, it was very much a very structured environment. You know, we literally woke up at a certain time, ate breakfast at a certain time, were ready for school at a certain time. My mom was a teacher, and then I got to see my father every couple of weeks. He was retired military and law enforcement. So that dynamic, created a no excuse mentality where you have to get things handled. You know, so it's been amazing. I grew up in Rubidoux, California. For those that know Rubidoux, it's no longer there. It's now annexed into Jurupa, so it's part of Jurupa now. But it was an amazing community, a tough community. A lot of single family households and things of that sort. But you know what? I cherished those years, and it taught me a lot. And that struggle, with struggle you create, perspective, and with perspective you create perseverance and success. So I attribute all those struggles to I attribute my success now to all those struggles, to be honest with you.
It sounds like, and I'm going to say hi to Gwen. Hi, Gwen, before we go on. Gwen, it sounds like a lot of discipline. That's what it sounds to me.
It was, yes.
You had a lot of discipline, which you also you received in the military.
Absolutely, yeah. So my sports background, I was a quarterback in high school, so I was responsible for leading the team, obviously, to win and to get in the end zone. So I played a variety of sports, and I enlisted in the Marine Corps at 17. At that time, not a whole lot was going on in the 80s. You had Grenada in 83 and the Beirut bombing in 83. And then in 89 is when everything just really re-kicked off with Panama, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and then we've been at war for 30 years. So I was able to kind of take that discipline, take that mindset, that no excuse mentality, and apply it to the military where I did very, very well as part of our team.
All right. Well, I can tell. You said, like the leadership. Are you? Now, I don't know. In your family, are you the oldest, the youngest, the middle?
No, I'm actually the youngest, believe it or not. Yeah.
Okay.
So I always say the youngest. Sometimes, they say it has it really good, but at the same time, you get a lot of mentoring from the older siblings. So I am very close to my family, and and I have an older sister who's amazing. Single mom, teacher here in Riverside Unified, and just a tremendous leader. So she's been a mentor, she's been a confidant for many years, and she's amazing. So, like I said, I've had a lot of support. Both while I was growing up, as an adult, as a business owner, leading the corporation, leading the nonprofit. It's been a team environment, a team effort. Needless to say.
All right. Well, I know too. Let's say hi. Hi, David. We want to make sure we say hi to our guests here. And David, he was in Canada, but I think he's back in the U.S. right now.
Very cool. Very cool. Welcome back.
And I know. So you, as you said, you're you enlisted at 17 in the military. You served, and thank you for your service.
My honor. It's my honor.
And also then, well, how did real estate come in? Because as I'm reading your bio, it wasn't like the first career.
No, it was not. It was not. It was actually, I don't want to say an accident. It just was not on my radar screen until I was older, actually. Out of graduate school, I had the opportunity to work for a couple of Fortune 100 companies. General Electric at the time was very supportive of military. I don't know for your viewers that know Jack or that know of Jack Welch, who was the CEO at the time. Just a tremendous leader. He was very supportive of military, had a no excuse mentality. He was they were a Fortune 2 company at the time, not 200, Fortune 2. So very high octane, very fast paced. It was a perfect environment for me, so that taught me a lot, and helped me establish a lot of contacts. And then I segued into the pharmaceutical industry because at that time, and it may still be, I don't know, but that time pharmaceuticals was an up and coming industry with all the pharmaceutical products, all the drugs that were coming out at that time. So it was just an amazing opportunity. I had a mentor at that time who was the CEO of GE Plastics. And so I had grown up with him. Craig Arnold is his name, the youngest African-American CEO of GE Plastics in its history. He's since moved on to other corporations, but he was actually my neighbor in Ruben. And so I reconnected with Craig, and, he kind of got me interested in the corporate sector and said, hey, take your military background, take your education, and let's get you in the corporate sector and let's see what you can do. Like, let's prove yourself. So to be honest with you, everything from the time I was a child to now, even now in the trenches of the corporate setting, has been about proving yourself. It's stepping up to the plate. It's been about setting high, lofty goals, and it's been about accomplishing those in a collaborative manner. And that's really what it was about. Real estate came in later as eventually I had learned that veterans comprised a minuscule percentage of the overall home ownership population. And I had come from an environment at Rubidoux where the home ownership population was very small as well. We call it the hood for those that know, right?
Right.
So home ownership, my mom was able to take advantage of a program that allowed her to become a homeowner with my dad's help, even though they were divorced. And so home ownership as a kid was something that we expected to do someday, but a lot of people in my environment were not homeowners. But we knew that it was something that was super important, super critical. And of course, there were some programs that we were able to take advantage of in that neighborhood that allowed my mom to be a homeowner. So that was kind of the genesis for the whole idea of home ownership. But then when I got older and realized that veterans only comprised less than 3% of the home ownership population 25 years ago, I said, that's unacceptable. I had a lot of people that served. And so I said, let's focus on veteran home ownership and let's focus on investing. Those are the two reasons for entering into the real estate industry.
Because you were in Is it pharmaceuticals first?
I
Incorporated.
GE first, General Electric first.
Okay, GE first, and then and then you then transitioned into pharmaceuticals.
Correct. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. So I was part of General Electric. I
right.
was based out of Irvine, and
Okay.
then, as I mentioned, I was always, with the exception of serving in the Marine Corps, my deployments, I try to stay as close to Riverside as possible because I had a
Mhm.
lot of support and a lot of contacts in this area.
Right.
And so it was GE first, and then I transitioned into Merck Pharmaceuticals.
All right. Now I
Yeah.
know it. I can't imagine you were just. Don't get me wrong. You had to be in management. I'm just going to guess. Uh,
Well, eventually, like, and
yeah.
that's a great question. We all start at the bottom.
Right.
Started from the bottom. Now we're here. As always, if you
Yeah.
know that song.
Yeah.
So, I was always taught, you have to earn your stripes. Whether it's as a child playing sports, you earn your positions, or throughout high school, throughout college. I was
Mhm.
a commencement speaker for UC Riverside. I had to compete for that opportunity. I got to serve for Al Gore in Washington, D.C. as an intern for 2 years, but I had to earn that as well. So everything has been about ownership, is about
Mhm.
owning the goal, owning the objective, owning the outcome, but really predicated on earning your stripes to make sure those opportunities continue to happen for you.
But that's still, if you really think about what you just said, it still comes all the way around to discipline.
Absolutely.
All of this that you said, that's what I'm hearing more than anything else. Is you have discipline, probably like you said, even from a child, as your mom having you have a routine that you could get things done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. A huge believer in consistency.
Mhm.
Whether it's spiritually, physically, helping the community, your business, your health goals, whatever it is really success is predicated on your consistency and doing the right things on a daily. But a lot of that's difficult when you're trying to balance several things simultaneously, right?
Yes, yes.
So again, my mom was very disciplined. She still is. She's 77 years old. She runs 4 to 6 miles four times a week.
Wow.
Yeah, no, she's amazing. And then my dad he's 100% disabled as a Vietnam veteran with Agent Orange, but
Mm,
he lives in a different city. But he, in his own right, has been very disciplined as well. So I got the benefits of having both.
that's
Yeah,
excellent. We want to say hi, Richard. Nice of you to come to stop by. Richard is one of our stock supporters, as David and Gwendolyn are. So
very
thank you
cool.
all.
Good to meet you. Good to meet you.
And they have, I mean, when I tell you people that have supported this program, the, they're there, the core people. Well, I
Awesome.
know too, you're also a husband and a father, because I remember you're saying you have kids in college. And I couldn't,
Correct.
you look too young to have kids in college, to be honest, but I said, okay.
The gray is here. You got to zoom in on it. It's
Okay.
there.
Well, you said, yeah, I think you said you have two.
Yeah, I do. I have two boys, and then I have an amazing niece and nephew that I was honored to see grow up as well. And be a
Okay.
part of that with my sister. And one's a sheriff and one is a teacher, and
Oh,
both parents as well. So I'm a great granduncle, I guess you could say technically. But
okay.
yeah, so technically, I say there's four of us, and
Okay.
and they're all doing exceptionally well.
Oh, that's wonderful. No, has anybody followed in your footsteps to go into the real estate field?
So yeah, interesting you said. I have one is doing film and some acting up north. One is has an entrepreneur. The older two already own their properties, and I'm getting them to invest more because obviously they need to invest. That's something that's really important in our family. And then the younger two are on that pathway as well. So it's something that's a must in our family.
I would say so. I know in ours, our family, my parents bought their home in San Diego. They paid 17,500.
Wow.
And I wish my mother was here to testify to this. But I remember the day I asked her, I was 12 years old, and I said, Mom, how much is this house? And she said 17,500. I said the whole house. I actually said this. The whole house. I said, and she goes, Mary, why are you saying that? I said, Mom, go buy 10 of these.
That's
I
right.
was 12.
Yep.
I was 12. She admitted to me later, she said, Mary, I didn't really listen to you, but I told two of my friends and they bought five each.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. That's how it's done.
Five
That's how
each.
it's
And
supposed to
they
be done.
became millionaires.
That's right. That's the
And
key.
they said, But my mom, she didn't buy then at that time, but later on in life, she did buy some more property out of state. But before she passed, we had this conversation, and she said,
Wow.
I did not recognize that God was speaking through you. Because what did you know at 12 years old?
Sure.
Because I'm saying though I can buy, I actually said this, the whole house cost 17. What I didn't know what 17,000 was, but it didn't sound like a lot of money to me. Can you believe that?
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing.
So, but that was in San Diego, and that was in 1960 something. Or
Wow.
something
So
to be something, yeah.
probably $1 million house today at 17,000.
It is. I promise you. So we
San
want to
Diego.
say hi, Elaine. Hello, hello. Hi,
Hello.
Elaine.
How you doing, man?
So, but
Yeah.
I will tell you, real estate is one of those things. I've seen it do so much
Yeah.
as far as the fluctuate, the up and down, the up and down, but I've never seen it not go up. Let me say this: it may
That's
go
true.
down,
Yeah.
it'll
Mhm.
go down, but it always goes back up.
Yeah,
Like
if you look at the histology of real estate, it always fluctuates, but then it fluctuates up.
it
So
does.
you do have your peaks and valleys, but at the same time, if you look at the difference or the delta between where it started and where it's at, it's
Mhm.
significantly outpaced inflation. So
Oh yeah,
here at my brokerage, we promote. It's not a traditional brokerage in the sense that we really promote investing. We want our agents to invest. It's about ownership. It's if you already have your primary, let's get you an investment property. Let's get you a rental. If you have a rental, let's get another one. So
right.
now we're investing in other states as well as a team. But I really push home ownership and investing to all the agents in the firm and the
Now
trainees. Hmm.
do multiple, I guess, duplexes and all of
Hmm.
those. You also invest in those too.
Correct. Yeah, I've invested in single family all the way up to 4 units, commercial. I own some stuff overseas that I've invested in. So it's been a journey, but it's something that's absolutely critical, especially now when you look at the stock market that's really struggling right now. If you look at the rate of inflation at almost 7%, if you look at cost of gas, the cost of food, commodities, everything is going through the roof. I just read a report that showed all the numbers for eggs and bacon and all. I was like, oh my gosh. So
Yeah.
if you could buy a cow or buy some chickens, that might mitigate that issue for you. But it's real estate that really is outpacing inflation. So it's important to take advantage of that.
Well, I know too. Everybody may not own, so they may not know what does it take to own.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It depends. So you have obviously the lending professional will run your credit to look at your FICO scores, the time you've been in the business, what you make. They'll come up with a qualification amount, but that qualification amount might be higher than the monthly payment that the prospective homeowner is comfortable with.
Right.
So what we do is we'll consult, and I'm sure the Henderson team does the same. They're a fantastic organization, but we'll do a consultation to really identify their qualification as well as the payment that they're comfortable with. And then we kind of work around that because we want their transition to be seamless, not
Right.
something that they stress out over. Even if they qualify for, let's say, 500,000, they might only be comfortable with 450,000. So we'll work around the 450,000 to make sure they're within their payment comfort zone.
Well, I noticed too the interest rates are going up. Is still a good time no matter what, it's always a good time to purchase.
You know what? I don't time that, especially if it's your primary residence. You have to pay to
Mhm.
live somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So I don't really time your primary necessarily. I'll time investments where I'll
Mhm.
look at different markets that are still up and coming, like Arizona's doing well right now. Parts of South Carolina are doing well. Oklahoma's doing well. Idaho's doing well. Utah. But when it comes to your primary, you have to pay to live somewhere. And
Right.
even though prices are high, I bought one in 2002 at an 8.5% interest rate. Granted, the price points were a lot lower, so it made the payment more affordable.
Mhm.
But very rarely do you see price points and interest rates low. There's always one that offsets the other.
Mhm. Mhm.
But yeah, if you're renting right now, if you look at the average rent in Riverside right now is at $2,900, $2,900 to $3,000 a month. That's unbelievable to me.
That's unbelievable to me. I'm sitting there. I'm like, what? Well, then I don't even know why I'm saying that because a couple doors away, it was a house for rent, and it was 3,800 a month.
It's
And I
amazing.
I actually called and said, well, did they make a mistake
Yeah, that's
on there?
Yeah, I
And
couldn't believe it. I could because all of my a lot of well, not all, but just most of them are actually on property management. So I don't really necessarily micromanage all of that. But when I saw the rate of the realized rate of appreciation over the last few years, I could not believe where the rental market is right now. So if you're paying, 2,500 or 3,000, you can definitely own something even at a 5.2% interest rate, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Now the scary thing too, again, you don't want to be reactive. I follow Tony Robbins, I follow Les Brown, I follow some mentors of mine that say don't be reactive. You want to be proactive. So right now in the real estate field, unfortunately, we're seeing people now where the landlords are selling their property. The tenant has been used to paying $1,500, $1,600 a month, and now are finding themselves having to pay $3,000 a month, and that's not a position you want to be in. In my opinion.
One of our sons, they live out of state, and they just raised their rent by $200. And I was telling him, you might want to stay there, and he's like, "Nope, Mom, we have to go. That's taking us out of our budget." And I said, "But then where are you going to go? This is because everything is going up." And he said, they live, like I said, out of state, but they blame the Californians for selling their homes here and going there and paying cash for it.
Yes, so that's a great point. So there's a lot of reason why we're seeing a lot of out-migration from California, right? There's a lot of reasons. But one of those reasons, obviously, is the cost of living as well. But, leveraging their equity to find areas that are more affordable.
Right.
So there are certain areas, and I can, if some of your folks need assistance with that, we can help identify certain areas that are still doing really, really well. But I've had multiple friends, colleagues, ourselves, that have leveraged equity and have purchased in areas where you're seeing significant growth as well. So that's really important. Again, you don't want to be reactive to life or the markets. You want to be proactive so that hopefully getting multiple revenue streams from your investments, but if not, at least taking advantage of your primary with the tax benefits and the other benefits that come along with that.
I think some people may not even know. I think a lot of people here do, actually. They know because many are homeowners, but what I find is that people that rent don't know the benefits of owning. They just haven't made that connection. Or they're like, well, I can just call the landlord when something goes wrong. So I don't. I've actually heard people say that. And I said, but why don't you want to own when you have to ask for permission to paint a room that you want to paint type thing? Yeah. And they don't think of it like that. It's a different mindset, I think, to own. Yeah.
Well, it is, and like I said, having grown up in a tough neighborhood with a low home ownership, we had a high rental rate in our area. And again, as kids, we weren't really in tune with what was going on. But I do remember a lot of my friends having issues, like that, and worse, not just having to ask permission on painting a house, but really either sometimes getting evicted, right, or not having control over where you live, not having control over that part of your life was really scary for a lot of people. So now I'm helping a veteran right now who's been renting a house for 35 years. So now he's in his 70s. The house was sold, right? And the previous landlord never raised rents. So he was accustomed to paying $1,200 a month. And now the lowest price property in Ruben, for example, is at $389 for 890 square feet, 1950s. Wow. Yeah. So now he is freaking out because he's like, I don't know what to do. And so the nonprofit that we have and the for-profit is really trying to help mitigate that situation and get him into something that is going to be suitable for him and his wife.
You're looking for him to purchase?
He wants to purchase. Yeah. I mean, because going from where he's at to a rental is like, going from the pot to the pot. I want him to go really kind of elevate if that's something that's within his footprint or something that he wants to do. He's in a position to do it, but it's going to be a struggle for him. Right now, it's kind of the shell shock phase where he can't believe, because again, he's been for 35 years, he's been in the same house. So now he wasn't in tune. He might have been reading things or hearing about things in terms of the real estate market, but now that he's in the mix, now that he has to find a place because they sold his resident and now they just gave him notice, a 60-day notice to vacate. Wow. Right now, he's freaking out and saying, I cannot believe where these price points are either on the rental side or on the home ownership side.
Whatever site you're on, it feels like we're living in this, I don't want to call it craziness, but that's what it's starting to feel like that. Because you feel like, but when I'm using myself as example here. Mm-hmm. Years ago, my husband and I purchased, and our payments were $1,500 a month.
That's right.
And my parents, well, really, I least my mom, she begged me not to sign the papers.
Mm-hmm.
Her mortgage was $124 a month.
Wow.
And
Amazing.
she literally, I'm like, she called me the day of, not the day of. She said, Mary, I'm begging you, please don't sign those papers. Here it is. She said, I can't sleep at night if you sign those papers.
Mm.
That's how she was so upset about us having to pay that. But when I explained to her, even then, I said, Mom, if there was a house that we could get and our mortgage is 124, we would do it.
Mm-hmm.
But now those houses don't exist.
They don't exist. Yeah. And they may never.
Well, I don't think they're ever going to exist again. But her fears of that, and even, and I say, God rest my mother's soul, because she said before she passed, she did tell me, she said, I'm so glad you didn't listen to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she said, but I was so afraid for you guys because it doubled our rent, more than doubled our rent. So she didn't even understand. I think I was more afraid than she was, but I was afraid not to do it. That's where I was too.
You hit it on the head, Mary. You hit it on the head. So either way, there's a component of fear involved, right? So either you're going to be, you're going to have to react to whatever life changes happen if you're not a homeowner, right? Or, the fear of purchasing sometimes is greater than, sometimes it's too great for them to pull the trigger and make that decision to purchase, right? I'm glad you did, obviously. Yeah. But my thing was never wanting to not have control, because having grown up where I grew up, I saw a lot of problems regarding where you live, how you live. People control either the government, because we were in a high subsidy area, so the government could come in at any time if you were on AFDC or Section 8 or what have you, right? And that wasn't fun when we saw families where that happened. Or the landlord could come in and raise rents, and so there's always that element of risk as a renter, right? I said, well, if you're going to bet on somebody, you might as well bet on yourself, right? So,
but that's that high self-esteem, Ruben. That's what that, because, but like I said, here it is, my own mother saying to me, and I didn't hear her, because I did, but at the same time, as I mentioned, I was more afraid, and we'll tell you how the story went too. We were in the house, had paid, think about this, one mortgage payment. My husband's kidneys failed, so he couldn't work. Oh, wow. They took me off the job. I couldn't work. We were staring at each other. We were in the house, but we couldn't do anything else. And I remember thinking, oh, what have we done? Yeah. We purchased the house, but we could not even, we eventually did obviously make the payment and everything else. But it was a scary time.
Sure.
I would to tell you that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'll give it to God of how we survived that.
Sure. Absolutely.
I would tell anybody. It is probably one of the best things we've ever done.
100%. That's probably if you look back, probably one of the most critical decisions, you having to overcome your fear, obviously. So kudos to that. Great job on that. But imagine if you hadn't, where things might be right now.
But this is what I said to her too. I said, I would rather make a payment on something I want.
Absolutely.
Than make a payment on something I don't want. I said, and she was like, I hear you, but how are you guys going? She said, now here she is telling us, how are you going to sleep at night? Yeah. Knowing that this is hanging over your head. How are you guys going to function? How are you going to sleep? And as life went on, and she saw, we have to figure it out. But
yeah, so I was given an amazing accomplishment, a compliment, I should say. And this is what I really find value in is we have an agent of ours who is a single mom, and probably, according to her, probably would have never owned a home, had she not been urged to. So she just closed escrow. I made a house visit to check on her and see how she's doing. And it was amazing to see her in her own place, and for her 3 kids. And so, those are the types of things that really provide value. And I know we met at the Fair Housing Council conference last week. I was honored to be a speaker there as well. But hearing all these stories from people, some of which, are homeowners, and some of which said, man, I didn't make that critical decision when I had the opportunity. And now as a result, this is what's going on. So kudos to you for making that decision. Kudos to this person for making that decision as well. But I am a huge advocate on home ownership. So back to your previous question, I don't really time the market because you have to pay to live somewhere now. I'll time investments, but I won't time our primary.
Right. And
Mm-hmm.
I think even investing is something, because even when my mom said years later, like you said, she only owned her primary in San Diego, but she did buy another property out of state.
Hmm.
Um,
Good
my
for her.
husband and I had purchased another home out of state, actually. And
Mm-hmm.
when I had told her about it, she was like, it made her excited. She goes, "You bought a home out of state?" She goes, "Well, who's going to management?" I said, Mom, we hired people to do
Mm-hmm.
that." And
Sure.
she was like, "You
Sure.
do what?" She was just, it was, I realized we were so I didn't realize her fears were still there. Let me just
Oh,
say, those
100%.
fears and anxieties were still, they didn't go away, but she got past it a little bit because she did
Mm-hmm.
purchase a house out of state
Okay.
eventually. So she
That's
did.
huge. That's huge.
I know, because
Well,
I could tell she was trying. It's like, because she came from a family that home ownership just wasn't the reality.
that's it. And if you did own a home, it was a home you stayed in for 30 years until it was paid
Yeah,
off. And it was a sense of security having it paid off.
yeah,
Now there's more of a leveraging game, right? And so
yes,
technology has really been a game changer as well because as you mentioned, now there's resources. You can property manage, you can buy in other states. I have friends that I know that bought homes on eBay, believe it or not.
yeah. Oh yeah,
Never saw the house. And it's worked out. But technology with virtual tours,
yeah.
running demographic trends, looking at rental rates online, well, I'll just say it this way: it's a lot easier now
It
to get
is.
into home ownership than it was in the past. My mom's generation, as I mentioned, initially wanted to stay in that house for 30 years, get it paid off. It was
Mhm.
a sense of security. So I had to really urge her to look at leveraging that and making certain moves as well. But she was able to make that as well. So she overcame her fears as well.
It's I think it's our generation.
Yeah.
It's what it is, because they, like you said, just to own, just that alone was so big for my family
Oh yeah.
to own a home, and then to turn around and like you said, to purchase a second home.
Yeah.
That was just way out of there. Like, how do we do that? How do
That's
we,
great. That's great.
that kind of thing. So it's really been
And it becomes scalable, right? You just keep doing it over and over and over and over. It's scalable because once you overcome, my first purchase was a $75,000 condo. And I just got out of the military. I felt like I was re-enlisting. I was nervous. I was shaking when I was signing. And I was like, what if? Like, what if? Like, what if? What if? What if? So it was kind of the fear of the unknown, but best thing I ever did. And then
yeah.
it becomes scalable. It's like Monopoly. You say, well, let me get, you might start on Baltic Avenue, but you'll work your way up to, Oriental and then St. James and St. Charles, and you go to Vermont, and you get to Pennsylvania, and then Park Place. I
Oh,
was a huge Monopoly player as a kid. So, and I always ended up with the properties too. It was funny. No
oh
cash,
my
but a lot of
goodness.
properties.
Well, too, because I don't want to, it's not a game, but it
True.
feels like it. It's what I
Yeah.
would say. It
Mhm.
has that,
Mhm.
like a feeling of a game when you understand it and you know what you're doing and you
Sure.
understand the rules, because there are rules to this.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's what I
That's
would
a
say.
great analogy though if you think about it because you're right. I know when the bubble burst in '08, man, there was such a huge impact. You looked at the price points losing up to 50, 60, 70% of their equity
Yeah.
position almost overnight. I know it hit in '08, but it rock bottom in 2010, right?
Mm,
So over the last 12 years now going on 13 years, we've been on an upward trend and money's been cheap, right? It's
right.
still cheap because your previous question, like, what about now? Well, yeah, 5.1%, 5.3% is still cheap money. Okay, it
Right.
is.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at somebody that's been doing this in the, in the 1980s or 1990s, there
Yep.
was 16% in the 80s.
We
Was it?
bought it at 13%.
There you go. There you go.
And I didn't even know what that was to refi. I didn't even know what that meant. So I remember hearing we're going to refi. I'm like, what is that? See that
Exactly.
if you
Exactly.
don't know these terms, they're coming at you, and you really don't get. And I really think that's what people are fearful. They don't know the terms, and they don't
Sure.
want to look stupid, and they don't want to ask questions. All of
Sure.
these things, not understanding that this is a good thing if you own. It's a
That's a
good.
great point. So a lot of what we do is educate. Like I
Yeah.
said, whether we educate our agents or educate our clients, we met at the Housing Council conference. We're educating nonstop because
Mm-hmm.
if you really want to advocate for home ownership, you're right. We have to fill a lot of information gaps that allow people to make a comfortable, well thought out decision, right?
Right.
And that's the only way we're going to take that apprehension away from home ownership.
That's true. I know too. We spoke about. I mentioned to you about the book that I've written about probate, and you're
Mm-hmm.
like, "Really? What is that?"
Huge. That's huge.
Because you know you know what it can do to families.
We do a lot of probates. We know.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
I would tell anyone. It is, in my opinion, it's one of the worst things that can happen to a
Sure.
family is if a
Sure it is.
home ends up in court, and
Mhm.
the family is fighting. Normally, this is if it happens that way, they almost never recover.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, I mean, it's a very important issue in all communities, but it's very, very critical in the minority communities where we don't really get a lot of trust, a lot of wills. We don't, take the extra steps to do those things a lot of times. A lot of people are now doing that. But that's the reason why we created the nonprofit, the Veteran Housing Alliance, is to provide housing grants to first-time veteran homeowners, and to help with transitional homeless veteran housing. But it's through the education process, and part of that includes making sure that when you do purchase a home, that you have a trust, you have a living will to make sure that you have your bases covered and keep that family intact.
Right. Well, I
Mm-hmm.
would tell you, thank you for that more. I mean, because I know there are, I think it was, if I remember, is it 10,000 to help with the closing, or how does
Mm-hmm.
that work?
Yeah, so the Veterans Housing Alliance is a 501c3, as you were talking about earlier.
Hmm.
We provide anywhere from 1,000 to usually 5 or 6. So
Okay.
basically, it depends on how much closing cost the veteran needs to
Right.
buy their first home.
Right.
And we have a board that works with their lending partner and works with all real estate companies. And
Okay.
they do an analysis to find out how much money that veteran needs in order to get into that home. And the VHA will step up and fill that gap.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's tremendous. I
it's
mean,
amazing. I love it. It's amazing.
since I actually know a couple of veterans, I'm sure they're just not aware of the programs. They just don't know.
They don't know. It's very organic. So we've been around for 7 years. We're having our 6th annual charity golf tournament at Eagle Glen on June 16th. So if you want to promote that, spread the word to your viewership. But 100% of the proceeds go back to the veteran, and they really don't know. Everything we've done has been organic. It's been word of
Right.
mouth. So now we're starting to get a lot more exposure. The city of Corona reached out to us and said, "Hey, we've been monitoring what you're doing. We'd love for you to help us with our homeless veteran transitional housing program to get them off the streets." So
Right.
that's our newest initiative. We picked up that rifle and started fighting that battle as well. The city of Norco now is reaching out as well to probably do the same with them. And
Right.
then Riverside will probably follow. But it's been very organic. You're right. We need to do a better job of getting the word out.
Well, that's okay. No, I'll be working with you on that. Don't worry.
Appreciate
because,
that. Thank you. Thank you. I need that.
because yes, because I mean, it really is. Word of mouth is even to this day is the biggest thing that anybody can do in marketing.
Sure.
But there's still so many different avenues now that we have, available to us to get the word out, let people know that this is available. Because I am a strong component. I believe, truthfully, I'm even when I talk to our own children, I tell them that you can't leave a rental to your children. You
Yeah.
can't to build upon wealth. You can't. It's not. You're not able to do that. But
Mhm.
if you own a home, you're a homeowner. You can always leave that to the next generation.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And that's a great point too. I mean, it's going back to the agent of ours who just bought her first home as a single mom. I mean, I asked her. I said, "So how do you feel? Like, we're really proud of you, by the way." And she says, "Oh, thank you. I wouldn't have done it if you guys hadn't urged us." And I go, "How do you feel?" She goes, "You know what? I feel more at peace because
Yeah.
this is mine. Like everything I do now is for me and my kids."
Yeah.
Right? Before, if I had done something to the rental, it was never really mine,
That's right.
right? If there was an enhancement or an improvement, it wasn't my enhancement. It wasn't. I mean, I got to benefit because she lived there, but now everything she does not only is her benefit as far as on a daily basis living there, but now it helps her equity position if she does an improvement or so she said she just feels more at peace. She feels a lot better. Hmm.
That just that peace of mind is what she has. And then no one she that long as she's making that payment, she has a place. It's not no one can run in there and say, well, no, we're going to give you 60 days. Just
Exactly.
not having that over your head.
Yes.
No one's going to raise the rent on her. Usually
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be a 30-year mortgage, or I think someone told me now you can get 40-year mortgages, which I didn't know about.
The banks are getting more creative. They're very good at that.
But whatever I say, whatever works. Well, I don't want to say whatever works because in I forget what year it was when someone was trying to get us to refi, and then he said this is when the market was really just red hot. And he goes, "Don't worry about it. It's going to be a balloon payment, but don't worry about it." And I said, "Excuse me." I said, "What did you say?"
Yeah.
And
Those creative financing programs got us into a lot of trouble. Yeah.
I showed the man to the door, and he said, what's going on?" I said, "What you're saying to us, you don't care what happens to us."
Correct.
That's what you're saying without saying it. You care about your commission.
Correct.
He goes, "I never said that." I said, "The fact that you're saying there could be a balloon payment and for us not to worry about it, who do you think is going to be worried about it?"
Yeah, who's going to pay it? Yeah, you're going to pay it for me? Yeah, exactly.
Said, you might as well go right out that door.
Well, see, so that's another thing we teach too, is that the responsibility that you have, right, to maintain that integrity, to be honest with how you communicate the pros and the cons. There always has to be fair balance, right? You can't just tee up all the benefits and the benefits and the benefits. You got to be balanced, right? And that's kind of how we measure whether or not you're somebody that we can trust. Is the best folks will say, okay, here are the pros, here are the cons. Let's look at the whole picture, right? And that's something that we advocate for here at the firm as well, to make sure that you're not just teeing up the benefits, but you're being fair, you're providing fair balance.
And I think that's people need that. Well, I know they need that because, like I said, my mother was trying to give me a balance of, do you know what you're doing here?
Yeah. Well, there's a friend of mine as well recently that said, hey, you know what, I think I want to sell, and I said, well, right now, let's wait out that 2 year. Like sometimes it's not even though it's in their best interest, it may not be in our best interest as a real estate professional. Okay. Right. And that's kind of where the rubber meets the road, where you need to do what's in the best interest of the client, not just, I know everybody wants commission. I get it. But if it's not the right time now, then just be straight up with that.
Mm-hmm. I know this. It's an area. I have friends that are in the industry, and they're saying, I mean, if you ready to sell, then this is a seller's market.
It is right now. The index is at 95 or so this week, where a balanced market is somewhere right around 30. If you look at the index, we're at 95 on the seller side. So it is highly a seller's market. However, of course, there's inventory issues that are going on right now. But I always tell people, if you're gonna sell, let's have a plan on what you plan on doing with the equity. Like, don't just sell, because you're going to get hit with capital gains unless you do a 1031 tax exchange. So let's make sure that you have a plan for that. So right now I have several transactions going on right now where they're leveraging equity either on their primary or on rentals, right? But they're investing it in up and coming markets that are way outpacing inflation. Like, they're doing phenomenal returns right now. And I kind of threw out a couple of the communities or states. But if you dive into those states, if you look at certain communities within those states, there's some areas that are up and coming.
All right. I can tell it's I don't know what the answer is, but everything seems like to me it's going up. I'm not saying that there's not an end to this, but I notice it always tends to be a correction in the market.
Well, yeah. So the tide kind of rises and falls, right? Sort of, kind of, congruently, if you will. But there's certain areas where it varies. So you might get a 15% growth in one area and a 2% growth. So yeah, I mean, it is rising. And there's some areas, believe it or not, that are declining, right? Because if you look at every city, if you look at every county, if you look at, they're even though they tend to rise and fall because a lot of it depends on interest rates and how that affects supply and demand. There are certain areas where you'll see a significant double-digit growth, and some areas where you'll see a single, and then other areas where you won't see any.
Okay. Is that because of just there's no supply, there's no demand for that area? All of those things, all those variables.
It could be, yeah. And then there also may not be a strong economic infrastructure. There may not be jobs, right? Because now people know now here in California that things are getting more what they call hyper local, because now you have communities where you have the park and the shopping and the schools. It's kind of like a casino. If you go to Vegas and you go to the Venetian, they never want you to leave the Venetian or the Palazzo, right? So everything you need is like right there. So they're starting to do that with communities now to mitigate the traffic, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
if you've gone on our freeways lately, you know that it's not a good place. Our
No.
freeways are not good, right? I'm just being honest, as an older guy that hates traffic. So,
Mm.
but that being said, now things are becoming more hyper local now, where everything is situated in that one community,
I,
right?
I, I've noticed because my husband and I are seniors, so many of our friends have moved to senior communities,
Very nice.
and they love it because they drive around in golf carts and they go get their groceries and everything is right there. They don't have to
Absolutely.
leave that. I mean, they can shop there, they can get their laundry, whatever it is
Mhm.
they need is right
Sure.
on the property.
Absolutely.
And they don't even when they leave there and they're like you said dealing with traffic there, they get upset. They get
Mhm. Well, the road rage, shoot, are you kidding me? It's crazy.
it
It's crazy.
is.
Yeah, but
But I
no,
don't.
I love Amazon, right? I love when they just ship straight to the house. I love that. It just lowers your stress. It just
It
lowers your stress.
does. I don't know. I don't even know the answer to because when I go back east and I see the trains, I there's an envy for that
Uh-huh. Sure.
they can get on a train and go pretty
Sure.
much anywhere up and down the eastern seaboard.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
I spent time in DC. I spent time in New York where it's a high, public transit system. California is a commuter state. It's so long, right? And it takes forever to get places, but I mean, folks don't even want to carpool now. And I know they're taxing people on the toll roads now or the fast track lanes, right? So you're paying a significant amount of money to get from point A to point B to try to mitigate your traffic. But California is one of those states where I don't see a real emphasis on public transit. Just don't see it.
no, we're
San
not.
Bernardino,
No,
San Bernardino incorporated their little bus system that they have on hospitality, but if
I
you look at the
saw that.
buses, they're empty. The buses are empty.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah, I notice all. I read all those reports. I talk to a lot of the local politicians. Your utilization rates are very, very low.
Oh my goodness! And
Mhm.
I
Where if
remember
you
when they
look at
put
New
that
York,
in.
everybody's on the. If you look at DC and New York, they're either on the green train or the A train or the B
Yeah.
train, the orange train or whatever. There's a high emphasis because they're more very highly congested. But
And
California is just so long.
But really, I mean, it's almost like you're penalized for having a car in some of
Yeah,
those cities. It's not, I mean, it's not, I'm not saying it's intentional or not, but what it costs to park your car
sure,
is,
absolutely.
it's like, well, or just finding a place to park the car. So you
Mhm.
have all of these things. It's like, you know what? It is better that I take the train. It's
Correct.
better. That's what I think has happened. And
100%. 100%. And with gas prices here now, you gotta factor that into the overall equation.
let's not even talk about that. I
Yeah,
put gas in the car the other day. It was almost $100 to fill the
yeah,
car.
yep.
It was like 96 or something. I kept looking at it going, it's almost like is this real? I'm paying
Yeah.
$96 gas in the car.
I don't see it's. I mean, I don't. When they raise prices on commodities and things like that, and gas and all that, I don't really see them adjusting downward once people are accustomed to paying that price point.
Nope.
So for your viewership, again, I always say, the best way to mitigate, inflation and the increased cost of living is real estate. Invest. Hmm.
It is. It's amazing. It's amazing to me. I can tell you. I'm living it, and how just so like I'm a retired teacher,
Oh, nice.
and I look at I'm like my retirement. I've been retired 10 years now, which is hard for me to even believe, but it's been 10 years.
Hmm.
And what it did then and what it's doing now, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
I should have stayed in I should have kept teaching
Yes.
because the cost of living has gone through the roof
It
compared
has.
to what the retirement is.
It
So
has. Yeah.
I don't have and I don't see it stopping anytime soon. With $6, we're paying for $6 over $6 a gallon for
Mm.
gas.
Yeah, it's insane.
And what I end up doing now, I notice I think twice before I leave the house. I think twice before I go in because I'm thinking, okay, you need to put these trips together. If you're going to
Hmm.
the post office and the bank or whatever, whatever it is, you cannot just get in the car and drive to that one place anymore. Those days are over. You
Yeah.
have to think about where you're going and what you're doing, that kind of thing.
Correct. Yeah. So when I was 19, it was my let's see, that would have been my second and third tours. I went, as I mentioned, I fought in the Gulf War and Desert Storm, and initially we talked about the humanitarian reason, getting Kuwaitis back to their homes when Iraq invaded Kuwait and kicked them out. But a lot of it had to do as well with the oil reserves as well. So we thought that was also going to reduce
Mhm.
the cost of gas overall, and it just and it just didn't pan out, obviously.
Oh, we have a question from Jeanette. Hi, Jeanette. Jeanette says, how can anybody invest if they don't have the proper money to invest in? Or do you mean you
Just
need
to
so
invest.
I think she means how do you become an investor? I think that's the question,
Yeah,
Jeanette.
that's a great question. Yeah, that's a great question. So the first thing that I advise folks to do is you got to get a baseline set up, right? So believe it or not, a lot of people don't know where their credit is, right? You really need to understand where your credit scores are. There's three bureaus, right? But
Mm-hmm.
believe it or not, I'll talk to folks and I'll say, so how's your credit? And they're like, you know what? I don't know. I think it's okay. Right. And I'm like, oh, we got to know exactly where you're at, because once we establish that baseline, then we can work on getting it up, because you get rewarded for good credit, right? If your FICOs are above a certain point. So number one is you don't just go out and buy a house. There's a lot of preparation involved, right? The second thing too is looking at your taxes, how much in taxes you report, right? So if you're going to buy a house, then I tell folks, let's plan 2 years in advance so that you can talk to your accountant or your CPA, or if you do it yourself, you have to look at how much you're reporting, how much income you're reporting, because that also affects your qualification amount, right? So, and then thirdly, if they're investing, for example, there are different hard money resources out there as well that they can look at. It's not just conventional financing. There's other financing as well. So there's different things we need to do. Like we teach a whole class on that, because again, we advocate for home ownership. But I want people to start planning at least 2 years in advance. We got to know where your credit is. Look at your taxes. Look what you qualify for. How long you've been on your job. Look nowadays, to Jeanette's question as well, is you can get a gift as well from family members. So a lot of our baby boomers are gifting to grandkids, the millennials, because millennials can't afford homes right now, right? So they're gifting monies to the millennials to help them purchase homes as well, right? So there's a variety of ways that you can do it, but we need to think outside the box because price points are so high.
All right. And Jeanette said yes but she has another question. She said, hi, Mary. Hi to both of you. Really appreciate your show and all these wonderful. Oh, thank you, Jeanette. You have no idea. I needed that, Jeanette. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Jeanette. Yeah. And again, you know what? Home ownership, as I mentioned, is just, it's not easy for a lot of folks, right? But the reason we were at the Fair Housing Council is because we really want to help folks that are struggling, to educate and to really say, look, if your goal was to be a homeowner, let's start digging trenches now, and let's start figuring out how we're going to do this, because not only price points, but you look at credit, if you look at, how long you've been on the job. Fortunately, they did it, people are making more. I know minimum wage was increased as well and things like that to offset cost of living or to make that more feasible. But we got to start looking at all these factors. There's got to be an entire game plan in place.
Right. Well, I can tell you, Ruben, I have learned so much today. I tell you, but how will someone, they can go to egahomes.com? Is that how they?
Yeah, I think my shirt's here. So just EGA Homes.
Okay.
And EGA, by the way, is Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. That's the Marine Corps logo. So just egahomes.com. And then the nonprofit is VHA, for Veteran Housing Alliance, the #1.org. And if you want to donate or if you want to get involved, we have a casino night coming toward the end of the year. We have our golf tournament on June 16th. We have an educational summit we're putting together that's free. So we'll have credit repair on site. We'll have pre-approvals on site. We'll have folks that have served the country getting their disability rating up to speed. So there's going to be a variety of vendors that are part of that effort.
Now, what day is that?
So so June 16th is the golf tournament at Eagle Glen. It's June 16th. It's a Thursday. Don't quote me on that, but it's Thursday. And then Saturday, November 12th is the Monte Carlo night. And again, these are all fundraisers.
Okay.
You'll see things on the website. And then the housing summit, we're still getting the dates together on that, but we'll post it up so if you want to look us up on Facebook or Instagram, it's EGA Homes. The website's egahomes.com, and then the nonprofit's vha1.org.
Well, I like to thank you for coming and spending this time with us today, Ruben. I can't believe that the hour went by that fast, but has
it been an hour? Yeah, that was pretty fast. Yeah.
Once you start talking, I was like, wow. But I can tell you, I was writing a few things down, and I will make sure to start getting information for me to let our viewers know if they're interested. This is what I call my golf. I play at it. I never say I play golf. I play.
Okay.
I know how to play. I have my own clubs, but I
Hmm.
play at it. And
You know what? Even if you don't play, come be part of the movement, be part of
oh,
the effort.
okay.
In and Out Burger donated their truck again. In and Out Burger is one of our partners. They donate their truck to us, so it's free burgers.
Wow.
Just come. Yeah, you don't have to play golf. There's a lot of games and things that are going to go on that are, believe it or not, have nothing to do with golf.
Okay. Well, thank you again for coming. We look forward to all of the. I mean, these events are just wonderful. And as I said before, we will be talking again soon
Sure,
about some other things going on. We have two more. We have a comment before we get off. We're right on
sure.
time. Very inspirational. Thank you too for the program. You're welcome,
That's our
Gwen.
pleasure. Yeah, thank you, Gwendolyn.
All right.
Anytime,
You
anytime.
have a nice day, Ruben, and we'll
You
talk
was,
again soon.
I have a good one. Thank you so much to all of you. Appreciate you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
There we go.